It's Paul again, and behind me is one of my favourite aircraft, the 1942 Wirraway. There's only 3 of these left flying in the world, special to the Wirraway Aviation Museum, and it's powered by a 600 horsepower R1340 Pratt & Whitney Wasp engine. The Wirraway has a wingspan of 13.1 metres, it's 8.5 metres long, and it weighs about 1,800 kilos. This one was build number 79, and there were 755 in total built. You're probably wondering why there's CAC in front of some of the Australian built aircraft like the Wirraway and the Boomerang and some of the Mustangs. It's because it was built at the Commonwealth Aircraft Corporation at Fisherman's Bend in Melbourne. You may notice with the Wirraway that all the sides are fabric covered on both sides, metal wings but fabric covered sides of the fuselage, ailerons and elevators. Very similar aircraft to the T6 Harvard, but this is the Australian built version. Power wise it's very similar, but the T6 goes a bit better. It's got a different ratio in the engine, and it's got a 2-blade prop instead of a 3-blade prop. There's quite a few similarities with the Wirraway and the Boomerang, even though the Boomerang is a higher powered machine, a bit more of a fighter. The tail system and the wing system is got a lot of similarities and a lot of common parts. Okay, so we're in the cockpit of the Wirraway. So, like most cockpits, when we climb aboard, we normally start with a bit of a scan of the cockpit, start from left to right, move our way around. So, first thing that you find when you start from the left is this power valve, which is probably one of the biggest downsides of the Wirraway, to be honest. We'll come back and talk about that a little more. Down below that's a fuel valve, so we want to be selected on the correct tank, so we should take off on the right tank to start with, which we are. We've got our flap lever down here which is in locked. So first thing we would normally do once we on our scan around, we put that in up, put the power valve in, and we would pump our hydraulic handle, get some pressure up, and just bring the flaps up, because the flaps, when it's sitting on its own, there's no up locks for the flaps, so they just sag a little bit. Put hydraulic pressure now, and the flaps are up, so now we'll just lock the flaps again and pull the power valve out. The trims are in neutral, so we've got elevator trim and rudder trim. We've got our fuel wobble pump, which we'll come back to. We can check all our instruments, check the altimeter, check the manifold pressure, which is on static map of 30 inches. Everything else is where it should be. And brings us round a little further. We've got our control lock, which is out, which is down between the stick. Now if we wanted to power up, we've got our master switch, got our generator. This particular Wirraway needs to start with the generator on. As you can see behind me, we've got the strobe light on, and we'd start with the radios off. So that's sort of our first scan around the cockpit, and then we would come back, and if we were going to start it, we would now pump up the fuel pressure, double check the trims on our way around from the left again. We push the mixture forward, we turn the mags on, and now we're ready to prime it. So we could prime the engine. About 8 primes when it's cold, and then we'd be ready to hit the starter. Obviously we won't do that now because we're inside the hangar. But that's a brief tour of the Wirraway. So the biggest thing that brings the Wirraway pilots undone is this power valve. I said I'd come back to that. So unlike most aeroplanes, when you select wheels up or flaps down, you would only have one function to achieve there. You would just move the flap lever to up or down. So now if I put the flap lever in the down position, absolutely nothing happens. So now I've selected down flaps. Now I've got to push the power valve in, and if the engine was running now, the flaps would be going down. Because the engine's not running, I'd have to move the hydraulic handle now, which is also what you would have to do if you had a hydraulic pump failure on the back of the engine. What brings people undone is when you're coming into land and you've got the wheels down and locked, and you've got the flaps down and locked, and someone taxis out in front of you and you want to have a go round. So now we've got to set the propeller, we need to bring the manifold pressure up, But it's very important that when we go around, we've got the flaps locked and we've got the power valve out. If we don't have the power valve out and you went to select flaps up to get a bit more speed out of the aircraft on climb, if we didn't have the power valve out, the flaps would just go straight up when you selected up. So what we have to do is we've got to let the airflow of the forward motion of the aeroplane blow the flaps up so that they come up nice and slowly. Because the secondary effect of putting the flaps up is that you tend to pull back on the stick, which then puts you obviously a lot closer to the stall. Stalling's all about angle of attack on the wing. To create angle of attack, you've got to pull the stick back. So that's what brings people undone. I'll show you a bit more about that in the air, but that's probably one of the hardest things with the Wirraway. So there's quite a few pilots that don't really like the Wirraway, or maybe it hasn't got the greatest name in the industry because it's been known to drop the wing, I guess, or people think that it has a violent wing drop during the stall. I haven't found it to be that way. I found it to be a really nice aircraft to fly. It, providing you're in balance when you come into the stall, it's been really fine. As with most aircraft, to be honest, they normally only drop the wing if you're skidding or slipping. But yeah, I find it a pretty nice, docile aircraft to fly. It is a very good trainer, however, and we're always used quite a bit, and the Harvard. I mean, some people call them the pilot maker because really, if you can fly the Wirraway from the front and the back, you can pretty much get in and fly pretty much any warbird. It's a real good stepping stone to a Mustang CIC or a P-51 Mustang or some of the higher performance machines. If you fly Wirraway well, there'll be very few airplanes that you struggle with. So there's an opportunity to come flying with me in the Wirraway. We do quite a lot of warbird training and conversion training for people who want to move on to Wirraways, Harvards or Mustangs, Yak 3s, that type of machine, where you need to get a bit of grounding in something that's sort of difficult that sorts you out before you get into something real high performance. So I do quite a lot of flying in the back of this machine. So put the student in the front and train them just like in the war, I guess. I get the hard job sitting in the back and making sure we can keep it straight.